Hey, pre-AP. So I'm going to talk you guys through what the next couple days look like. Everything has been uploaded to Classroom that needs to be there with the exception of this one video. So I'm going to walk you guys through the process. As a friendly reminder, I have first period pre-AP as well as 6th, 7th, and 8th. So first period, you're going to be kind of piled into my B-Day classes because they're all pre-AP classes. I'll be using 8th period for the most part as an example. I will try to remember to pop over to first period so you guys can see what that looks like. But for the most part, you guys' classrooms are set up exactly the same as far as instructions for the next couple days go. So I'm going to walk you through everything. The first thing is you want to get into Google Classroom. And per a handful of people who had the foresight to ask this question or to request this anyway, I have organized everything according to the day that you need to be working on these things. So the stream has started to get muddled down with things. I do not recommend trying to find stuff through the stream. I recommend that you go to classwork. So click on classwork. You're going to see the date. You're going to see all the things that you need for this day. I know that our school has encouraged that you guys work on your classes during the time that you would normally have class. As far as I'm concerned, you're more than welcome to pop on here and do stuff ahead of time if you would like. That doesn't bother me a bit. The key is that you're getting things done for my class when they need to be done. So that's the gist of that. There is a underneath. So Tuesday, March 17th is when 6th through 8th period will be popping on here. Again, first period, you're going to have access to everything. So if you want to do stuff on Tuesday before Wednesday, that's totally fine with me. At the end of the day, you guys are going to need to check in. You're going to need to watch this video, which you're doing now. And then there are a handful of things that you're going to need to walk through to state that you understand. And then some assignments that you'll continue working on that we've been continuing to work on. One of which will be sort of changing its usual course. So thank you for being patient with all of this. I know a handful of you guys have questions, and so I'll try to answer as many of those as I can through this video for what's expected for class at least. And if you have any other questions in the meantime, feel free to shoot an email or request a chat. So let's start at the top. The very first thing is I've got a Google form for you to fill in, just stating that you've checked in, that you understand what's going on, you've watched the video, you know what the due dates are, et cetera, et cetera. At the end of that Google form, there will be a handful of questions that allow you to ask your questions to me or to state that you want to request a chat because you need to talk some things out. Any of those are fine. So first thing you're going to do, start off by clicking on March 17th. This is your check-in, and the video is going to be embedded in the form and is not embedded there yet because I'm currently making the video, but it will be there. So click on the form. You are going to check yourself in, say that you're here. If you say you're not here, it's just going to send you back to the start for you to say that you're here. So say yes. The next part, you will see a video right about in this area that you will be able to watch. You should be able to make it big if you need to make it big. If you try to press play and it's not working right, then you just need to get yourself into YouTube and make sure that you are in your Bentonville School District YouTube account, not a personal YouTube account. So that way you can see everything. Everything should be unblocked and approved and good to go. If you come up with some problems and it isn't working for you, please send me an email right away so I can make sure that I make it work somehow. So So the question is going to be, did you watch the video with clear directions walking you through the process for today? If you did not watch the video, it's going to send you right back to the same place and it's going to tell you to please watch the video. So make sure you watch this video all the way through. I'm going to step you through the rest of the Google form and clarify those questions that you might have as we go through it. When you get to this point in the form, you can just click yes because you will have watched the video all the way through. So this next part is going to make sure that you are letting me know that you understand things that need to be done and when they need to be done. If you have any particular questions about little details within those assignments, send me an email or request a chat. Either way, you will have the opportunity to do that in this form once you get in there. So the first thing that it's going to ask is whether or not you understand that you need to continue reading for your assigned book and that you need to be halfway through your book by the end of the week. Hopefully you understand what that means. If you don't, pop over to Classroom. You're going to see under essential question number 2, we have our EQ documents here, which is where you will find how far you need to be in your book. So for example, Henrietta Lacks people, you're going to need to make sure that you finish through chapter 20 by the end of this week. So get all the way to page 157. That is about halfway for your book. That's how far you need to get. Audacity people, I believe you have to get to 183, 283, 183. Read all the way to 183. Stop when you get to the poem called Make It Right. And Animal Farm people, you're reading chapters 4 and 5 this week. When we come back from spring break, we'll pick up with 6, 7, and 8. Since we're all stuck at home for the most part, and we have a little bit more of a lax schedule, and maybe you'll be able to focus a little bit more because you don't have quite as many distractions around you. Getting on top of our reading, getting caught up with our reading shouldn't be a problem. So that should answer that question there, that you understand you need to continue your reading and be to a certain point by the end of the week. Second part is going to pivot to the curiosity exploration document. So I have just relocated this document to make sure it's under March 17th. I will relocate it again underneath Thursday, or if you're a first period person, you're going to find it under Wednesday, March 18th, and I'll relocate it again for Friday. So that way it kind of stays moving with you guys. So the second part of this document is going to ask you to make sure that you also remove step 3 in the curiosity exploration document. So anyway, I'll show you that part too. So go to Classroom. You are going to see curiosity exploration number 2. You're going to open that up. I have already deleted step 3. So if you see step 3 at the top here, you're going to want to delete that. We're not doing step 3. We are not posting anything to a discussion group in regards to our curiosities this week. You do need to do step 2, step 1 and step 2. But you'll notice that there is not a step 3 below here. I want you to delete it if it hasn't already been deleted. So the curiosity exploration is the same as last week. You're going to, as you're reading, hopefully you'll be curious about something. You will make a note of that curiosity to the right. You will make a note of what quotation from the book inspired you to have this question. Remember that your curiosity should not be something that is specific to the text. It should not be something like, I wonder if Clara is going to make it to Ellis Island alive all in one piece as she travels from Russia. That is something that can only be answered by reading the book or asking the author or asking someone else who read the book. So that is not a Googleable question, really. It's not something that we're learning more about that we could share with others. It's just something super specific to the text that you can read to find out. So your curiosity question needs to be something more along the lines of, I wonder what it was like to be an immigrant from a different country coming over to America in the early 1900s. That is general enough that we could start doing some research and see what that real life experience might be like. So those are the types of curious questions you want to be asking on the right-hand side. When you get to step 2, you're going to choose one of those questions and you're going to research it more. So maybe the question that I actually want to research is what it would have been like being processed through Ellis Island in the early 1900s. You have 3 rows that are here. You do not need to use all of them, but you need to use more than one of them if your first source that you go to isn't really that great. So on this column, you're going to put your source materials. So if you go to history.com and you find some cool embedded video on one of their sites showing people being processed through Ellis Island, and there's a lot of informative stuff there from that particular video, that's fine. If you would like to, Ellis Island has like a whole entire website that's all just Ellis Island stuff, and it's really cool because Ellis Island is essentially a living museum now at this point. So they've got a lot of interesting information. You could use them as a source. National Archives might have a lot of information. So you're going to paste your link to your source in this column, and then you're going to move to the next part where you reply or share out, I guess, what you learned. You might stumble upon a website that has a ton of information like National Archives or Ellis Island, and you do not need to report back all 50 things that you learned. That's too much. Please narrow it down. Give us the highlights, summarize the big pieces. At the same time, I don't want a half-hearted one sentence that doesn't really explain what you learned. So give me a little bit more. The next part is going to be the next steps where you are telling me, so what are you going to do with this information next? Is there something that you learned about that particular topic that now you want to go learn more about that particular thing? Like, do you want to narrow it down even more? Do you just need more research? You want to go some other places? Are you wishing that you could see actual footage of this particular thing? Or are you going to try to make this thing, whatever it is? Any of those answers to those questions would be adequate for this part. Very last part is going to ask you to be thinking about the final project that we will be working on a couple weeks after we get back from spring break. So whether or not we will see each other face to face after spring break remains to be seen. As far as I know, for now, we will be seeing each other after spring break in person. Even if we don't see each other in person after spring break, this particular project is something that can be entirely done online and delivered electronically. So you still need to be thinking about the final project. And in regards to that final project, you're essentially going to be creating some sort of presentation where you can teach the audience about what you've learned, whatever this particular thing is. And then the second part is that you need to include something for the audience to interact with. So this is where you're going to be brainstorming, how can I turn this into something interactable, right? So it could be a how-to guide to make your own kite, the best kind of kite with these sorts of homemade materials. It could be a Google form that you turn what is it? It's a choose your own adventure Google form where they're, depending on what somebody selects, that might take them down a different path, like the Game of Life or Oregon Trail or something like that. So they could experience whatever that particular scene is or that situation from your book that you want to make interactable. So any of those things would work, but you're going to be putting all of your brainstorming there. So when you're finished, you are done with that curiosity exploration number 2 and you want to turn it in. That is due the end of the day, Friday. So whether you are an A day or a B day person, you've got until Friday to get it done, because I know some of this takes a little bit of time, and that is fine. So let's go back to our form. We understand that. Let's move to the next part. So we're going to pivot to navigating the story. You guys should have done your first column exposition with this already. So I have moved navigating the story up to the March 17th, or if your first period, March 18th, topic, so that way you can easily find this. So you're going to notice that the rising action deadline has been adjusted here. You'll notice that someone has already turned this in. If you choose to turn it in, that's fine. Just realize that when we move on to part 3, turning point, you're going to have to unsubmit it so you can continue working on that part. You are more than welcome to turn it in when you're finished. So I will know that you have finished this by the deadline, at least the rising action part. If you have turned it in ahead of time because you finished with exposition, that's fine. You're just going to have to unsubmit it so you can continue work on your rising action. So let's click on that. First column, like I said, is the exposition column here. This is the characters, the setting, the kind of place that these characters are living in, what sort of trouble's going on. Second column is a little bit similar, but it's building off of these first things from this first column. So you're going to be working with the rising action. You're going to be letting me know what trouble is starting to brew. Is there anything else that's starting to get worse, or the initial conflict that you thought was there is starting to escalate and turn into something worse? Second part is giving me what the obstacles are. So any obstacles to your main characters. This could be aware. This could be the setting or a setting that is a potential obstacle for your character to get whatever it is that they want or what they're trying to achieve. It could be a who. There might be a who in the way, some sort of person, or it could be a what that is in our main character's paths, or it could be any of those. So it might be a combination. Make sure that you're listing them all. The third question is going to ask how the characters deal with these obstacles. So how are our characters responding to the obstacles? If you're reading Audacity, you know that Claire is going to be going through a process where she starts relocating to America, and that particular setting that she's in on a boat in the middle of the ocean, that is a potential obstacle. She's got to get from one place to another, and there's a large ocean in between her and her final destination. So how is she dealing with this obstacle? Second to last one is going to ask, how do the characters interact? So this could be like, how are they interacting with each other? Are some characters getting more frustrated with other characters? Are some taking the lead? Are some, like with Animal Farm, you're going to see a lot of animalism. It's like classism, but animalism happening, right? Where we've got some animals are in a higher class than other animals, clearly. So the way that they interact with each other is going to be interesting. How are our characters interacting with their obstacles? And then how are our characters interacting with their surroundings? So for most books, we've got surroundings that are starting to change. Animal Farm, you're kind of stuck on Animal Farm, but the surroundings themselves continue to change a little bit. New windmills are made and broken down on a fairly regular basis, and that affects things. So last question is going to ask, what's the impact of the setting on the character, the plot, and the conflict? This is another 3-point question. Please address all parts of the question. How is the setting impacting the character? How is the setting impacting the plot? So the setting itself, is it helping the plot to move quickly? Are we speeding along with things? We're moving through all of our plot points, or is the setting slowing things down? How is it impacting the plot? And then how is the setting impacting the conflict? So the location itself might be escalating the conflict, or it might be slowing it down. It might be changing what the conflict looks like. The characteristics of the conflict might be changing itself. So that's how you're going to be asking that question or answering that question. So when you're finished with rising action, you're done. Again, you can turn it in if you choose, but you'll have to unsubmit later. This rising action is not due until, again, the end of the week to give you adequate time to read, so you are able to adequately answer all parts of the question. So you'll check that you understand that part. Second to last part, this is the funky part, and this is where we've kind of changed things up since we last spoke. So I love the idea of having everyone in a Goodreads discussion with other people from other classes. because of our current situation and doing things virtually. I have, instead of doing Goodreads discussion for this week, and I know some people are a tad bit ahead and have already posted, I'll address that. But instead of doing Goodreads, we are moving the discussion online into Classroom, which means that you're going to be discussing with other people in your class that aren't necessarily reading the same book as you. And a discussion implies that you are not only commenting with an initial post, but you're also responding. I will have directions for those responses on Thursday and Friday. So if you are a B-Day person, 6th, 7th, and 8th, you'll get those directions on Thursday. Technically, end of the day, Wednesday, but for Thursday's class. And then first period class, you'll get those directions for responses Thursday evening, but technically for Friday class. So let me walk you through what has changed so you're aware of how this works. You'll go back to classwork again, go to your date, and you're going to click on essential question number 2. You will see that there's a section where you can view the question and turn it in. My view is going to look a little different than yours because it's a teacher view. So this is where I can grade everybody's and assign points and all those things. You should end up having like the directions or something around in this space. And then I think you have a box to the right that will show you where you can turn stuff in. Like you'll submit your answer and you can press turn in. So this is how we're going to do this. You guys have your EQ documents, right? And you have your directions here that have slightly changed, only in relation that we're not posting to Goodreads. We are posting to the discussion board in Classroom. And there will be a response portion that I'm going to ask you to also do that's slightly different than what we would normally do in Goodreads. So you guys still have your essential question options. These are the same as what they have been. So there are no surprises here. And hopefully with the change in plans this week, you'll be able to catch up with your reading and then be able to adequately answer these questions. You will choose one question, just like how we had originally planned with Goodreads. You will, when you go to the essential question discussion in Classroom, the difference here is that instead of just posting your response to Goodreads, I would like you to make sure that you clarify with the class what book it is you're reading, because not everyone is reading the same thing and not everybody knows what everybody's reading. So state what book you're reading, and then state what question you've chosen to answer. Ideally, if you kind of copy and paste that and include it, it would be helpful for the class to provide some context for your answer. And then when you answer, make sure that you are including at least one good example from the text to kind of back up your thinking. So if you decide like you're going to answer this second question, animal farm people, what responsibility do the farm animals or the citizens of a country, for example, have to their leaders? And how are we responsible in the big scheme of things? This is an opinionated question, so there isn't necessarily any right answer as long as at the end of the day you can back this up. So can you find something in the text that can prove what you feel is the responsibility of the farm animals and or citizens of a country, right? So make sure that you're backing it up with that. And then ideally, I would also like you to, we'll go back. I'd also like you to include thinking of some sort of real life connection that you could add there. So if we're going to be asking about what responsibilities do citizens have of a country to their leaders, there are lots of things that you could think about, modern day 2020, whether in the United States or other countries that you could relate to the way that you answered this particular question. So feel free to Google stuff, anything to solidify your thinking and your reasoning. You do not necessarily need to quote your textual evidence if it is something really big. So if it's something really small, please quote it. please cite it correctly. Otherwise, if you can at least reference what the scene is or the scenario or whatever that's going on, and then give us those page numbers, that would be helpful so we know where to go to. Or I guess so I know where to go to. If you have already posted your second response into Goodreads, and you're like, great, now I have to do a second thing. That's not true. I want you can still click to the discussion post from Goodreads. So go back to that discussion post and copy what you had already written. Paste it into the question box, and then just make a few tweaks according, like, hey, I'm reading Animal Farm, and this was the question that I answered, or whatever. Make sure that you addressed all the things that it's asking, and then turn it in. You will not be able to see anybody's answers until you post your answer first. Once you do that, you should be able to start seeing other people's comments being posted. You will be able to reply to people. I ask that you wait for your response until you get directions. Ideally, let's see. You'll get directions by Wednesday night at the earliest for how to respond. So Wednesday night, you can start going in and doing some responses if you would like to do it ahead of time. So first, your very first response, your very initial response needs to go in there by the end of the class day. So if you are 6th, 7th, or 8th, you need to get that response in here by Tuesday evening. If you are first period, you're going to get it in there by Wednesday evening in your first period class. And then we'll talk about responding to other people and stuff like that the next class day. So when you go back here, you can say, I understand that. The very last thing, I have to take a grade from some of the stuff that we're doing this particular week. And so what we'll be doing is I'm going to be going in, and I know that I cannot be there we can't be together for a physical, like a speaking and listening grade, like a discussion grade or something like that. But your initial posts in the classroom discussion and your responses are going to be ultimately what I'll be taking a grade on and giving you some feedback on. So that will be happening. That'll be happening Thursday, Friday. So I'll be in there looking at your initial responses, start commenting back on some of those, and giving you feedback. So I think as long as you're thinking thoughtfully, thinking of backing up your reasoning with some good evidence, both from the text and from personal experience, modern day, historical examples, whatever, you're going to be in good shape. So as far as 6th, 7th, and 8th, like I said, you'll get your directions on Thursday. First period, you'll get your directions technically Friday. So anyway, so when you're done with that, you'll click next. And then this is the important thing for all of you guys that end up having questions. If you have general questions, like one or two simple things that I could just, like, you're not eager to have a whole conversation with me about it, but you just have a couple clarifying questions. Like, can I do this ahead of time? The answer is yes. As soon as everything is posted, you're more than welcome to work on it ahead of time. So don't ask me that question. But any other questions you can throw in here, and then I'll see this form. I'll keep checking it regularly just to see, who's posted stuff, like who's checked in with me, who has questions, and I'll make sure I respond back to you. If you want to like legit chat through stuff because you're thinking through things, you have ideas, you want clarification, whatever, let me know that you just want to request a message chat. So we'll be using Google Hangouts for this. We are not doing a video chat. If you are like how I am, you're just lounging around and whatever this week. So nobody needs a video chat. I'm fine. You're fine. We're good without it. But we could do a message chat. So Google Hangouts has like it's just a chat space where you can type your answers and all the other stuff. So live chat. So if that is something that you would like, just let me know. And I'll set up a message chat for us in Google Hangouts, and I'll send you the link to join it. So you don't need to worry about like a whole class chat or whatever, because that sounds like utter chaos. So we'll just do we'll just do individual chatting back and forth. So anyway, so this is more like a situation if you wish you had a seminar pass and you could just come and talk about something. This is like your seminar pass. So we could do that. I know my office hours say 11 to 1 to request to chat. For the most part, like I'm not going anywhere, guys. So I'll check emails fairly regularly. And I'll be checking the Google Forms to make sure everyone's checking in and stuff and doing okay. But anyway, so if you specifically want to request a chat, I'm 100% setting aside 11 to 1 to be solely focused on the computer and staring at it. Outside of those hours, if you're desperate, let me know. At the end of the day, like I'll do what I need to do to make sure that you guys understand what's going on. So if that means having a chat at 3:00 because that's what you need, then we'll make it work. So anyway, I think that's about it. First period, so you can see yours. Just friendly reminder, your stuff's all up for Wednesday, but it's all live. Like it's all there, so you're good to go. I think that's it. Hope everyone's doing well or as good as can be expected. So I'll see you guys on the other side of the screen.